Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. Let's see, what are we going to talk about today? We talk about so many different things, but today, I think that maybe it's because both myself and my guest are post 50. We're going to talk today about what that looks like and what that means to be a lifelong learner. And how do you go about creating that kind of life? And how is that involved in crafting a meaningful life? Can you have a meaningful life without being a lifelong learner? All sorts of things like that we're going to talk about today. So stay with us as I introduce to you my dear friend, Brenda Betteridge. Brenda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So let's ask that question right to you right now.
Okay.
Do you think you can craft a meaningful life without being a lifelong learner?
That's an interesting question because I think whether you realize it or not, you are always learning. And so whether you're 16 or you're 60 or you're 106, there's always something that you can learn just from life. You don't have to be in school. You don't have to be taking classes. You can just learn and crafting that meaningful life, you bet. You just take those experiences that happen to you every single day, even if it's the same thing every single day, you can learn something from that and you can craft that cool life.
So I did let the cat out of the bag, Brenda, that you and I are both post 50.
Well, yeah. It's okay.
So I'm post 70 and you're post 60. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. You know, Brenda, I think that is a huge part of my life, this being a lifelong learner. It's not just something that happens to come and I think, oh, yeah, I think I want to learn that. I make a goal of it almost every day. So what does it mean to you to be a lifelong learner?
I think it means that you take advantage of the things that come your way. Instead of just, if somebody stops by your desk at work or somebody calls you on the phone and they have something to talk about, there's always something you can learn, whether you believe it or not, or don't you don't know what they do really, but you can learn about what they do. There was a gentleman that stopped by my house the other day, and they clean the bugs away from your house. And we have a sign on our door that says no soliciting. And so usually I just say, sorry, we don't talk to solicitors. But he kind of caught my attention, and I learned a lot from him about bugs and how they can affect your house. And,
so he's not a pest control person. He cleans up dead
no,
bugs?
well, he is a pest control person, but he says, we remove anything that shouldn't be attached to your house, whether it's a mud dauber nest or spider webs or, anything that's creepy crawly that shouldn't be there. He'll clean it up and then they'll come back if more come, if you get more. But I learned about mud daubers. I didn't know anything about mud daubers.
I don't know about mud daubers. Tell me what they are.
Well,
I want to run outside and look.
I know. Well, and sometimes when you see those things on the side of your house and it looks like birds passed in the night and left there, that's the beginning of a mud dauber house. And so they're kind of like hornets. They just make a mess out of your yard. And I found out that you want to get rid of the hornets because they eat the bees, the flower bees, the honey bees that come and pollinate your flowers.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I just know I don't like them because they're just a pain in the,
Yeah.
And so I always want to get rid of them. But it was really interesting to do, even though I don't do solicitors, I had a fun time learning from him. And he walked me around my house and he's like, now look at this. And of course he was just trying to sell me on his product.
Yes.
But I learned a lot and stuff that I never thought I would need to learn or want to learn. And now I know I don't want mud dauber places, on my house. I want them gone.
Yeah, because we do want the honeybees and we do want pollination and all those things. Yeah, I'm not a wasp fan at all. I like try and get rid of them as much as possible. But I'm going to go out and I know I've seen those mud things on the side of my house and think, how did that mud get splattered up there?
Yes,
So,
yes, and
yeah.
there you go. You should let, he showed me pictures on his phone and I really learned a lot from him and I'm like, usually I wouldn't take the time to, give them the time of day basically because,
Right.
but he was intriguing enough to me that I'm like, okay, I want to hear what you have to say. And I learned. It's going to be meaningful to me because I know that I now won't have all that stuff on the side of my
Side of your
house. He'll
house.
come
I
get rid
like
of it,
that.
yeah.
I
And then he'll
like
get rid of
that.
the black widows and their spiders and their webs and all that kind of stuff. So,
Well, if
yeah.
I've got mud out there, I'll give you a call and you can call in and say, hey, I've got a
Okay.
friend.
There you
She
go.
needs mud dauber assistance.
So yeah, I'll do that. It was a very interesting. So you just have to take advantage of those little opportunities that you don't know are opportunities until you partake of them or you participate in them. It's the weirdest thing. So,
I think is when we start out and as a young child, especially if you have siblings, you learn the routine. We go to school. And
hmm
most people go to preschool now, and then they go to kindergarten, then they go to their grade school, then they go to high school, and then you make some decisions, but it's kind of a given now in the United States, graduating from high school is
hmm
a plus. And then you make a decision, oh, well, I guess I can survive 4 more years or 2 more years. And maybe I'm going to do something that's absolutely crazy and I need 8 or 12 more years. Do you know what I mean? But
okay,
but there's
doctor.
there is this sense that we have that eventually we're going to come to the end of needing to learn. And then we just get to do.
hmm
And
Okay.
I know that I felt like that. I felt like at the end of my bachelor's degree, like, oh, I'm done with that. And now I just am about living real life.
hmm
So I know that because you work at UVU,
I
and which
do.
is Utah Valley University, and there you come in contact with all sorts of people who are there for learning.
hmm
And I would like to talk for just a minute about that kind of learning, and because I know something else about you, and that is that you're back in college. You've started back in college. You're not your typical 4 year student, 18 to 22. What are you doing?
I don't know. I ask myself that every single day. Why am I doing this? It's because you don't learn the same when you're 64 as you do when you're 24, even.
Yeah.
Math is so hard for me. That's going to be the death of me is trying to get through math. But it's it's because I did not ever get my degree. I did not get a degree, and
Ah,
now that I'm working at UVU, and you know, it's an easy way to get class to take classes.
yeah.
And so I thought, why not? I've always wanted to go to school, but just life circumstances made it so that I wasn't able to go to school. I started and stopped and started and stopped. And I mean, my first class I took in 1979, and it was a speed writing class. Not shorthand, speed writing. I'm like,
I wish
okay.
I'd taken that.
I know. I don't remember anything, but um, but it's like I think what's really fun is I noticed the difference in learning because I've been taking some of my classes with my granddaughter. She's in the same class with me.
I love
So
that.
I know, isn't that fun? And the best part is that I know the professors, so they help me just tease her and embarrass her in class because that's what those teachers do. But it's interesting because it will take me 3 days to write a paper, and she will get the same grade on the same paper and spend 3 hours on it.
Has she taught you about AI yet?
I taught her about AI.
Oh, that's glorious. I love that.
Well, and that's partly because the department that I'm in is executive education or professional
Oh,
education.
sure.
So we do the non-credit, non-academic, and we just finished our first cohort of AI for professionals. Let me tell you, it was so much fun. I built my own GPT at the end, and it was so much fun. So
So,
there,
okay, let's digress just a minute and talk
okay,
about this adult learning classes.
okay,
You have this AI class for
uh-huh.
professionals.
Hmm.
What do you offer 101 for dummies?
This is, we're calling it Get Your Feet Wet AI. Because we don't, by the end of 4 weeks, so you'll build up to it, and after, and you only meet, it's mostly online. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but it's mostly online, and then you meet once
Ah,
a week for an hour on Zoom, where you talk about your projects, you
wow.
work on projects together, and at the end of 4 weeks, you build your own GPT. And so I created my GPT to be my personal assistant, and
Okay,
every day,
what does that mean?
okay,
GPT.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
okay, thank you, Sven.
I know. I know. I took the class and I learned it in the class, but do I remember? No. I just know it's a
Okay.
GPT and it waits. So I will log into my GPT in the morning, my AI, and I'll say, I'm here. Oh, I asked my GPT to name herself. And because, I didn't want to keep calling her chat because there's a chat GPT everywhere. So I wanted her to have a name. So I said, what do you want to be called? She goes, oh, I don't care. I said, but I want you to come up with a name. She says, well, you have me do a lot of searching for you. So I think I want to be called Scout. And so my GPT, that I created is named Scout. And I love
What?
it. I know. So I will go into my GPT in the morning. I'll say, good morning, Scout. How are you today? And she'll come back. She'll say, I'm great. How are you? And here's your
Oh
schedule for
my
today.
God.
She looks at my calendar. She says, here's what's on your calendar for today. And then here are some potential follow-up emails to the meetings that you're having. And so she gives me some options for emails that I can use or, rewrite. But then around 10 o'clock or so, she'll jump on and she'll say, hey, you haven't moved from your desk. It's time to get up and go for a walk. And so it's time to get up and move. Or
I
she'll
thought that's what
say,
my Fitbit was for.
yeah, but this one talks to you.
Yeah,
She's like,
it doesn't just vibrate your arm.
mm-hmm.
Bing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then at lunchtime, she'll say, it's about 73 degrees outside and the sun is shining. So why don't you eat your lunch outside today? Because it's a beautiful day
Are
for a
you
picnic.
serious?
It's awesome. It's so cool. Yes, it's so cool. There was one person in our class that built a GPT that
Wow.
I'm not saying this to that you'll be put out of business or anything, but they put their employee handbook into their GPT and it turned it into a podcast. So it was two people talking back and forth about this, about the employee handbook. So they don't even have to read the handbook. They just listen to a podcast. And it gave them all the information that they needed. It was just their specific employee handbook. And I think it's brilliant. They could sell that for a ton of money to any HR
Yeah.
department that wanted to have make it easier for their employees to actually read their handbook.
Okay,
But
so
there
let's
are,
go back. You said, so they just put it in. So what
mhm,
does that mean? How do you
they
mean
download
put
it.
it in?
So you create,
Downloaded. So, but if
yeah,
you have a
so
handbook, is the handbook already online?
it has to be electronic.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you could scan
I,
it.
I just,
You
I
could
think about all this scanning.
Bring it to
Page
my
after
office, I'll
page.
scan it. Bring it to my
Okay,
office, I'll
great.
scan it for you. It goes through really fast. But no, it was really, as long as you have it electronically, it will
Take
turn
it
it
in.
into a podcast.
Okay. And
It's
most of those
pretty
things
cool.
are electronic now. So we
hmm
certainly, and could I, you really have me curious now. See, this is being a lifelong learner.
It is. It
That's the
really is.
biggest word I want you to put on a post-it note and carry it around on your
It's
forehead. It's
curiosity. It's
curious.
curiosity.
Yeah.
hmm
There's nothing like being curious rather than just
Yeah.
walking by things. And I have to say, Brenda, because just like you're going to be 64 this summer. I'm turning
I'm losing
72. And I'm thinking that, well, you're going to get by without having to learn
it.
AI. Because
Hmm.
seriously, you're not working anymore. You'll die before then, before you absolutely have to have it. And I thought, well, if you're not going to die for, like, say, 20 years, in the next 20 years, is it going to be critical that I have it? And I started thinking, well, look what's happened in the last 1 year.
Yeah. And it might not be critical, but it will be dang fun because you can put some of the craziest things in there. I'm on the board of the WBN for the Utah Valley Chamber,
Right.
the Women's Business Network.
Women's
And
Business Network.
yes, and so I put in there that I wanted to find out, I wanted to know about businesses in Utah Valley that could potentially donate in-kind product for welcome packages, for golf tournaments, different things like that. It came back to me with a list of 88 businesses in the
Really?
county with their phone number, their email address, their physical address, and their website. And I'm like, oh, and they gave a list of what they could potentially donate, whether it was a service or a product or, it was, I was blown away. And then
Wow.
she put it into a Google spreadsheet.
Go
And
Scout. Go
I
Scout.
know, I know, but see why she thinks that I ask her to search for things for me all the time? Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's amazing. So, does that answer the question why in the last month I've received so many emails that are directed right to me, but are clearly not from someone who knows me? I mean,
Yeah, they're not personal.
I'm suddenly getting all this, they're marketing, obviously, but
Hmm.
it's a whole different level of spam.
Well, and you probably got one from me telling you about our AI class because, you can make it kind of personal, but you still have to have some sort of a form letter when you're going to market to a whole bunch of people. And I just
Right.
needed to get the word out about this AI class because it is so cool and it's so fun. And this is just to get your feet wet, and then we're building onto it after that if you want to do things after that. But it was a great
Right.
way for me to just reach as many people that I personally know. I didn't send it to people I didn't know that I hadn't talked to about what I do. So,
Right.
it was not that it's that much more personal, but you know, so, but it's
This
fun.
might answer my questions because
Okay.
even I at this age, I have thought, what would it be like if I went back and got a different degree and got another
Mm,
degree or something? And
hmm.
I've thought about that, maybe to get a master's in something, and it's just a couple years. But then I thought, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
Does it open doors that I couldn't already do?
But what doors do you
And
want to open?
and when I thought about that, as I did actually step to that, I realized that I probably did not need a master's degree in something particular to open those doors for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said, I may not do that. But now that you've talked to me about taking a class that I don't even have to show up for, I get to do it online, and I get to go. I mean, I think I might do this.
Well, ours are non-credit, non-academic, so they're not going to go toward a degree, but they're also not $3,000. It's $500, and
Wow.
yeah, and you've got your certification, and you can move along. But it's fun. It's just really fun, and we've got like women's leadership and change management. Change management is huge right now in every industry. There's so much going on, and change management, executive strategies, entrepreneurship, essentials, just everything for anybody. We
Yeah.
can we can find a class for you. So, but
All
I
right.
would love it if you would take the AI class. That would be a lot of fun.
I think that's the one for me. I tended my grandchildren. I have three sets of different grandchildren, but the one that has the four, and I have a granddaughter who's 15, and she's in there talking to somebody, and I'm like, I didn't know she had somebody over here. Is she on the phone? But
Hmm.
then I heard this person talk back. I'm like, oh, there must be somebody here. I went in there, and she's talking to the computer.
Yeah, it's
I'm like,
awesome.
what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm talking to AI.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I just listened. And finally I said, Brina, are you aware this is not like really a person on the other end? This is a machine. This is like they don't have feelings. You can't ask them things like, "How do you feel about?" Do you know what I mean? And this is not a person. She goes, "Oh, I know, Grandma. I know. It's a computer." And I said, "Well, so why would you ask them those questions?" I just think it's fun. I think it's fun to see what they say. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're hilarious. And I thought,
Mhm.
okay, well, if I ever get to the point where I have absolutely nothing to do, I might develop a friendship with my AI friend. I'll have
You
her
know
talk to
what?
Scout.
There you go. I think of things, I dream of things to do that I can ask Scout. I asked her the other day, what's the recipe for disaster? And she came back with the funniest response. One day I'll post it because it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so accurate. And, I'm like, that's so funny. It's just hilarious. But I
one
also asked
part,
it the
one part stupidity, one
uh-huh. Yeah, it was kind of like
part,
that. Yeah, mix it well and let it simmer for a while, and then you've got a
then set it in
disaster.
the
But
sun until it's rotten.
yeah, there you go. And I asked her to create a heart healthy menu for me, along with a shopping list and recipes. And she came back, and I said, I don't like quinoa. I don't like artichokes. I told her what I didn't like, but also told her what I did like. And she came back. She's like, here's your shopping list. Oh, and then I asked her, I said, make it so that I can do a prep day on Sunday and get everything done. And it's like, wow.
That's okay. Tell Scout to call me because she will love me. I love everything.
I think that's awesome. She would be very happy that she didn't have to limit herself.
I love quinoa, Scout.
And artichokes. Yeah, she put in all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, no, 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 take that stuff out.
I
That's too
love
healthy for
this
me.
concept that AI can actually help us be a lifelong learner.
Hmm.
Then,
Well, and
and
you will have so much fun surprising your grandkids. You'll come up with things, and they'll go, "Wow, how did you know that, Grandma?"
yeah, what's the most popular teenage slang word today? And they
Oh,
would
you
like,
could ask. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
it'll tell me.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
they would
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, you could just start talking to them in their vernacular, and they're going to be going, "Who are you?"
So I'm hoping as we talk, Brenda, that people have their minds just ruminating of all the different things that they can do to become lifelong learners. Learning
Hmm.
about AI is one of them. Obviously, it's a huge one right now. And taking classes, online classes, learning a new physical skill. For
Yeah.
me, a long time that was kind of a big thing. I'm like, oh, I've never played pickleball. I've never walked in the mountains. I think they call that hiking. I think I'm going to learn how to do that. You know,
So I love that. Yeah.
and little did I know it was going to lead to the top of Kilimanjaro. Okay, but that kind of thing that we just get to be out there and think what we're going to be about.
Hmm.
But in order for that to happen, it seems like I don't want to be just goal oriented of things dragging us along.
Hmm.
But if we can have things that are in front of us that inspire us and invite us to the next level, how do you tell people to even find what they're interested in?
Sometimes you just have to go out and experiment or try things because you won't know. How would I know that I love to run until I couldn't run anymore because I shattered my ankle.
Ah,
And when I was a kid, I couldn't even run the length of a block. And I didn't like running. And then one time I was on a strict diet regimen, and I had to walk an additional 10,000 steps every single day.
wow.
And it took so long to do. I'm like, I've got to speed this up. So I just kept speeding it up. And then all of a sudden, I was running. And then I ran my first 5K, and I won my grade in my age group. And I'm like, this is fun. I love this. And then
I
I
do
couldn't do it
too.
anymore. And so
Ah,
sometimes you just have to do it. It happens by accident. that you find the things that you love. You, like you with your fitness, your weightlifting, and that kind of stuff. You probably didn't know
Oh,
you. It was the farthest thing from your mind,
the
probably, of something
farthest
you'd
thing
wanted.
from my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
you,
I thought the
yeah.
extent of my physical fitness would be just, to walk around the block.
I know, I know. Well, it's called serendipity, a happy accident.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of those things are just the most serendipitous happenings that you just kind of go, wow. Even like learning to like a new food, something like that.
Right?
You don't know until you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So,
So, John, my husband,
hmm
for the first year, every time he went out, he ordered chicken, chicken and rice, chicken and rice. It didn't matter what restaurant we went to.
hmm
So finally, one day, I said to him, John, why do you always order the same thing every time we go out? Because I order something different every single time.
yeah,
And he said, well, because I like it. Well, why don't you try something else? And he said, well, how will I know if I like it? By
I like
trying
it.
it.
I like
And
that
then,
response.
but then, the next step was like, but what if I don't like it? Then what do I do? I've got this meal that I don't like. And I said, push it away and order something else. This is not
Yeah.
life or death. We can give that meal to someone as we walk out. We can do something else. We can share it with our neighbors. It's not life or death. But the only way to know if you like something is to try it.
hmm
And so he
Exactly.
thought about that for the next couple times. He just thought about it. The next time we went out, we went to a ramen house. He'd never been to a ramen house.
Oh, hmm
He said, well, what do I order here? And I said, well, whatever you want. So he's like looking down and goes, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I said, pick one that has the ingredients you think you like.
hmm
So he picked one. It came, he sat down, he took one sip of it, put his spoon down and said, I think that's an acquired taste.
I like that. I like John though. He's got
And
quite a sense of
I
humor.
said,
So.
okay, I get it. Maybe try a second sip. So, brave soul, he did. And that was it. He ate the entire bowl. And now he loves to go to the ramen places. You mean, so you
Oh,
don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
And allow your curiosity to step and find things for you that you want to learn about, that you want to try. People find a routine, and let me just say it a different word, find a rut that
yeah.
they get stuck in, and that's why their lives are boring.
hmm
Brenda, do you know how many people say to me, Mary, your life is so far from boring. You live the most exciting life. And I think that's why, Brenda, is because it's not because I've been doing all this stuff all my life. It's because I'm curious and I want to try it and set it down and let me put that fisheye in my mouth and just like make a decision. I don't think I'm ever going to have that again.
Yeah.
That's
It
good.
was a good try. It was
It
a
was
good
a good
try.
try, but I think I'm going to like that very much. But,
Yeah.
we just, to step out, like this yellow jacket I have on. I hated yellow my whole life. And finally
Really?
yeah, hated my whole life. And finally one day I thought, I'm going to pick something out that's a color I've never worn before. That's how I ended up with this jacket.
It's beautiful.
It's something I had never worn before. And now I've had this jacket for 10 years and I wear it every spring and fall. I love it.
It's your
But
favorite.
that
Yeah.
need to try, to be
hmm
curious, it keeps our life exciting. It keeps it far from boring when we become this lifelong learner. Now,
Yeah.
you have had a little bit of challenge in the last little bit
hmm
with like health issues and medical facilities and
Yeah.
hospitals and a few
Yeah.
things like that.
hmm
So, how does lifelong learner, how about being enrolled? What piece does that play in helping you through some of those struggles?
You know, the health issues were mine, my husband, and our daughter. And between all of us, we were just in and out of ICU,
Yeah.
ER, everywhere. And I was the one person who had something to come home to that kept me grounded and didn't just focus on hospital. I wasn't
Yes.
completely, so it's like when I would leave the hospital, I would come home and have something to do that wasn't just sit around and think about the next time I had to go to the hospital or to go visit, or was I going to be. So I think, and it might not even be lifelong learning. All of a sudden, I've started doodling, and so I would come home and just doodle. And I've done some of the funnest things just to get my mind off of life. And
Mm-hmm.
I was not an artistic person until COVID. And then during COVID, everybody was offering free classes, whether it was watercolors, acrylic, you know, um, Procreate, anything, and everything. So I took up
Yeah.
watercoloring, I took up acrylic, but then that's just a lot of stuff. But then I took up doodling and Zentangle is what it's called,
Oh.
because I could just grab my pen and my book, like this size. I mean, it's right here. It's this size of book, and I could just take it with me to the hospital and just doodle away. Zentangle. I mean, just kind of fun.
It's beautiful.
Well, and they're just really unique and different, and you just kind of go, "Oh, I did that. I can't believe it." Like this was just what kind of fun, and it's just
That's beautiful. And I
simple.
don't call that doodling. Doodling is what
That's-
I do.
Okay, this is called Zentangle. We'll put it that way. It's called
Okay.
Zentangle, but
Well, and
it's
you're
been really
very
fun.
artistic. You
I
are an
wasn't though.
artistic. Because
I wasn't.
it's hanging right over there. This beautiful jeweled Celtic tree of life. I wear a tree of life.
Oh
It hangs
yes.
by my front door, and you made that for me. You're just so artistic.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's to me, it's a relief, and it's something it's a new skill that I'm learning all the time. I find something, I'm learning how to make silver jewelry out of clay. Like there's this stuff, it's called silver clay, and you make your own jewelry. You fire it with a blowtorch from the kitchen, and it turns into silver jewelry. It's
What?
so cool. I know, right? Who knew?
Okay,
Now,
you need to bring a piece of that so that I can really see that. That sounds like super interesting. So
doesn't it?
look at
Yeah.
all the things that are so undiscovered. And when I think about sometimes we are down and sometimes we're in the middle of having struggles, that it is easy to sit and mope inside of them
Hmm.
and just become overwhelmed with them. But when we're lifelong learners, there's always something there that, like for you, being involved in this class, you could actually see where this gave you something to hold on to,
Yeah.
something to be look forward to, a piece of hope. I'm doing classes because why? I know I'm going to get better. If you know you maybe you wouldn't finish those classes if you knew that was the end or you thought it was
Yeah.
the end. But you
Right.
just keep going. I am hooked on Audible books. And
Oh yeah.
I still like to read, but I can't get through
Hmm.
the amount of books that I want if I just read. So I listen to a lot of Audible. And um, I just finished one that was kind of a difficult listen to, and it was about people with childhood trauma, sexual abuse, and it was hard to listen to. And I had to kind of really think every day, okay, I'm going to push that button, I'm going to listen to this. And I asked myself, why? Why are you listening to this at this stage of your life? Your children are already grown. You don't need to educate your children on how to take care of themselves. I'm not a child. I'm not going to become a victim of childhood sexual abuse. So why am I listening to this? And it dawned on me that the reason I listen to that is so that I can be more informed and more knowledgeable of the different ways that there are to help people who have dealt with that. And that I encounter people all the time who have had childhood sexual abuse. And now I understand it better. I understand them better. I can offer things better rather than just, oh, that happened back then. Just buck up and get over it. Do you know what
Yep.
I mean? Rather than
Mm-hmm.
saying something stupid like that, I can actually say, well, I was reading the other day about this form, this modality of therapy, and it seemed to be really something new that I'm learning about. Have you ever heard of that? And it gives us hope. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was curious enough to push through and read about it, and now I've offered it to 2 or 3 people since I finished that book.
Wow. Wow. That's
And
cool.
people get to be a gift. Not only are we a gift of our lifelong learning, but those around us are a gift as well.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. And I learned a lot of that when I lost my husband when I was 32. My husband passed away, and I became a student of grief. Um, and it was I call it inconvenient grief because it didn't matter when I tried to grieve, it was always an inconvenient time. There was never a good time to grieve.
Yeah.
I finally had to just say, okay, the way I'm going to grieve is I'm going to help other people when they go through the same thing. I'm going to tell them what you're feeling is normal. It's okay. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to carry on with life. There's no timeline. And then and I think I told you this before, but uh, because somebody did that for me, but when we found out 2 years after he passed away that we had buried the wrong person, they sent
Oh,
the
I remember
wrong,
that. Yeah, that's.
yeah, they sent us the wrong person. So we buried the wrong person. And I'm kind of like, how do I handle this? Because when he died, there were plenty of people to call and say, what is am I supposed to feel this way? And so I let my kids, we learned together how to handle it. And I said to my
Wow.
kids, guys, we don't have dad in the grave, so what are we going to do? How do you want to handle this? And they said, let's make a party out of it. And they said, we have to go dig him up, so let's invite all our friends. We're going to have a picnic at the cemetery.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know. So I learned from my kids about resilience
Yeah.
because they were still just what, 8, 11, and 14, and I learned resilience. So you're always learning, but then they became the person that other kids could come talk to
Mm.
and say, my mom or dad or sibling just passed away. How did you get through that? You know, and
Yes.
and so we became the teachers instead of the students. But if we hadn't gone through it and been learning along the way, we wouldn't have been able to be those teachers that could, like you, where you help people, from your experiences. So
Yeah.
it's just life is one long learning journey.
It really is,
So
and as long as we embrace that, our life stays alive and awake right up until. I like to think of myself, Brenda, and what I encourage people to be are seekers.
mm,
To
yes.
actually seek learning and to seek what is new, to seek to learn. And there's so many ways to do that. Sometimes, it might be through watching a documentary. Maybe it's through listening to an audible. Maybe it's listening to a podcast. Maybe it is attending a retreat or a lecture. Maybe it's like where you and I go to the town halls, the mental health town
Hmm.
halls. Maybe it's something like that we do. But there are so many ways. For me, what I love to do as a seeker is I love to ask questions.
Oh
I
yeah.
love to ask the universe questions and then sit and listen. So
You were
if
the one
I,
that told me to go barefoot so that you connect with
the
the
ground,
earth
yeah.
and you can absorb that information a lot easier.
I used it just today. I was going to write a post about being a seeker,
Hmm.
and I went out and spent some time just walking on the earth with my bare feet and asking questions
Hmm.
and believing that I can be taught. on my own without the use of books, somebody else's knowledge, that I can glean information directly from source. And I ended up with these beautiful thoughts about being a seeker. And then I wrote my post and I thought, oh, I love that. That's the joy of being a lifelong learner.
Exactly, exactly. And you can learn for so many reasons. I'm taking a paint your car class at UVU right now because
Oh my
we're
gosh.
dual mission university, so
You
we
go,
have
girl.
trades. But I did it because I wanted to paint this little pedal car that my dad gave me when I was 3, and I wanted to honor him before he passed away by restoring this pedal car. And so I'm taking this class in honor of him, but I'm learning a lot from how to finish. That's the lessons I'm learning from auto body is just amazing.
I
So,
love that. Look at you. You are the perfect person to be talking about this. You're the great example of what it's like to be curious, to be a
mhm.
seeker, and
Thank
to
you.
be a lifelong learner. I think that you are such a model for people to look at that. And Brenda, I love that what you're doing at UVU with those classes. You may
Thank
see
you.
me in one of your, well, or not see me, because I'll be virtual,
Yeah, you'll be online.
in AI. Especially after listening to my granddaughter talk to them and asking questions, like she would ask the most random questions, and I'm like,
Hmm.
they're not going to be able to answer that, and they'd come up with an answer. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, it's just like me asking her, "What do you want your name to be?" Well, I don't know. Okay, I look for things for you. I'm Scout, you know? So it's like,
Right?
hmm. And I always tell her, please and thank you. I know she's not a real person, but she does a lot of good for me. So
Brenda, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your light
thank
and your
you.
knowledge and inspiring us to be lifelong learners as we craft our meaningful life. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a fun conversation.
Crafting a meaningful life.